There's a lady named Danielle Reno who lives in Kansas City. And I saw an article on the news about her. She went to pick up her daughter from a public place about 9:30 p.m. She said it was pretty warm outside, so she left her Toyota 4Runner running. She went inside maybe 30, 45 seconds. She came back out, and somebody had stolen her car. Her cell phone was inside. Her purse was in there. So she called the police. She filed a report. But just something within her felt like she needed to be very proactive in this search for her vehicle. So she started doing a little bit of detective work on her own. So her cell phone had a GPS so she could track it and see where it was going. And then, of course, all of her credit cards and debit cards, she could see where money was being spent. So for the next 28 to 48 hours, she's watching and seeing where things are going till finally she comes in contact with her vehicle and the perpetrator at an Applebee's. So here's a picture of what she looks like. And so she gets on the phone, she calls the police, she says, listen, I see my car, it's in the parking lot of Applebee's, it was stolen 2 days ago, and she sees the lady who stole her vehicle get out of the car, and she's carrying her purse and has her cell phone as she's getting out of the car. And so she's mad. I can't believe she got my purse, she got my car, she's going to Applebee's. And so she goes over to the car, and I guess she has like her extra key, and she steals her car back and drives off, and then she's on the phone with the police going, I got my car back. She's inside, and they go in, they arrest her. And it says in the article, she wasn't trying to take the law in her own hands, or they're not promoting vigilanteism, but like something inside of me as a red-blooded male takes and goes, that's what I'm talking about. You come and steal my car, I'm going to steal that sucker back from you. And it's not about that you should do these things yourself or that you shouldn't trust the police. It's just the story that the bad guy didn't win. That's what feels good, right? What I don't like to hear is it got stolen, it got chopped up, it was gone, her car was left forever. She never found out who did it, and nobody ever was served any justice for it. And you go, man, that's not a good ending. But somebody stole my car, I tracked them down, and I stole that thing back. Once again, not promoting you to put yourself in danger. Do not take the law into your own hands. But something inside goes, yeah, that's right. The bad guy's lost. And so in our story of Nehemiah, he's been walking through rebuilding this wall around Jerusalem with the people there. And since the very beginning, he's had opposition. And there's been these guys who have been saying, listen, you're never going to finish that wall. You can't rebuild it. You don't have enough supplies. You don't have enough people. And even if you did, we're going to form an army around you. We're going to come in and we're going to annihilate you. And Nehemiah stands up and he says, don't be afraid of those people. Why not? Because the God that we serve is great and he is awesome. And you're building this wall for your family. And it says the people, they rose up and they continued to build. And they had a sword in one hand and they had a hammer in the other hand. And I want to say, that's what I'm talking about. The bad guy tried to come in and thwart the Lord's good work. But the people stood up and said, not today, Satan. And they kept on building. But today we're going to see that even after opposition and after attacks, one after the other, it continues. So we're going to see what happens next in the story of Nehemiah rebuilding these walls. We're going to be in Nehemiah chapter 6 today, verse 1. We're going to go through chapter 7, verse 4. This will conclude our series in Nehemiah. What things can we learn today about what we should do when the persecution continues? Nehemiah chapter 6. First we see that as he encounters his oppressors, we see a promise of peace. I love to go to the movie theater to watch a movie. I think ever since I was a child, it's one of the very few things you can do in life where you can sit and be focused on something and not have to think about anything else. You're just watching the movie, you're involved, it's enjoyable. My whole life, we have bought movie tickets when we got to the theater. Get there 20 minutes early, buy your ticket, get your seat, no problem. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we went to watch a show and my kids were super excited. And when we got there, the tickets were all sold out. That's okay. There's lots of things to do. We'll go visit somewhere. We'll come back. All the next show tickets were sold out. Every theater within 50 miles was sold out. So as a parent, it's pretty frustrating and hard to see disappointment in your kids' eyes and know that you can do nothing about it. So from that point forward, we always buy tickets online. And maybe 3 months ago, I learned about this new movie place that has electric lazy boy chairs that you can sit in when you watch movies. So it is now my movie place of choice. So me and Sam have been to one of these. My wife and daughter have not. So we say, okay, listen, we are going to give you all the greatest movie experience you have ever had in your life. So I get online, I get the tickets. And so here's what it looks like when you're picking out your tickets for a movie theater. So it'll say which ones are available and which ones are not. If the theater is empty and I can sit anywhere that I want to, this is my preferred spot, right in here. I want to be right in the middle, about 63% of the way back. I don't want to be in the back row. I don't ever want to be in the front row. Right about there is what I like. So this movie was pretty popular. It was opening weekend. And so in this theater, I needed 4 seats together, and there were 4 right over here on the edge. So I thought, that's not too bad. We can sit together. We'll be able to see. No problemo. So we go into the movie theater. We get our tickets. We walk in, and we're looking. And my wife goes, this says row B. Row B. Wonder what that means. I go, maybe they mark them different in here or something. She goes, no. Row B is down in the front. So on almost every one of these things that I've ever filled out, the screen is in the front, and the seats go this way. Well, on this particular day, the ones that I thought, the screen was up here. So I thought I was buying 4 seats in the back, when instead I bought 4 seats on the second row. So we go down and we sit in our second row seats, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the worst decision that I have ever made in my life. I don't like anything about sitting up front in a movie theater. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm bringing back up my order, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I cannot believe that screen is up there at the top. I cannot believe I didn't see that. This is going to be terrible. It gets better. Not only did I buy seats in the second row, I bought seats in the second row at the IMAX screen. And so, I was wondering why it cost so much more money, but I thought maybe it's a popular movie. Didn't think much about it. So let me tell you what's great about sitting in the second row at an IMAX movie. Nothing. There's nothing good about that at all. So this is what it looks like in case you want to experience this. You're laid back in your recliner. That part's nice. And so we are all the way over on the right side of the screen. And so whatever happens on the screen, if it is happening slowly, this is what you look like. If it happens quickly, this is what you look like. Because the screen goes for about 400 feet that direction. It was awful. And so I made this promise to my wife and to my daughter that they were going to have an excellent movie experience, and what they received is not what they were promised. And so many times in our life, you too have felt like the wool has been pulled over your eyes. And you say, somebody promised me something, but this is not what I was told that I was going to get. We were buying school supplies last week, which is very, very exciting. And so we're going through the list, right? 5 pairs of these scissors and 2 wooden pencils and all these things. And the announcement comes over the PA in the store, and it says, shoppers, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. I'm all about once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. We are about to give away a product that will change your life. I like my life being changed, and it's free. I love free. All you have to do is meet us down here at this place in the store. I'm like 10 feet from where we have to meet at. I'm thinking, this is the Lord's anointing, that He has put me in this place for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm almost 99% sure they're going to give me a free car. It is that kind of day. And so I go over there, and there's probably 1,000 people in this store, and only about 6 come over here. So I'm thinking my chances are even greater of getting something good. And for the next 20 minutes, I had to listen to this guy tell me about these instant heat patch things that you break some kind of coin inside. It gets hot in 3 seconds. And he went on from the little one to the middle one to the big one to the gigantic one, telling us about what a great deal it was. And I'm going, listen, bud, I don't care about your heat patch thingy. Where's my Mercedes? And he goes, since y'all have been so great today, here is this great free gift. You're not going to believe that we are giving things away. And I'm thinking, I'm ready, bud. Whatever it is, this is going to be great. And it was like this little piece of metal with a sticker on it and a Coke tab stuck on there that you glue to the back of your phone and it helps it stand up. I was promised something that was going to change my life. That did not change my life at all. I will never get those 20 minutes of my life back ever again. But you've all done that, right? You see the picture of the food on the menu, and then it comes and you go, that is not the same thing that I saw in the menu. Something that is promised to you, but what you receive is very disappointing. And so this is one of the lures of our enemy. This is one of the things that we will face in times of oppression and persecution. You'll be promised one thing, but the enemy always means it for destruction and devastation. It may be a promise of peace, but it will not end that way. And so we think back to the Garden of Eden. And so there things are in perfection, and the enemy comes in and says, look at the fruit of that tree. It looks delicious. And they go, my fruit does look really good. You should eat some of that. We can't. God said we would die if we ate some of that. Surely, God didn't say you would die. No, in fact, if you eat of that, you'll be like God. A promise of peace and a promise of power and a promise of perfection, but instead a result of devastation and destruction. And so Nehemiah faced this same thing. Nehemiah 6, verse 1. Now when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall, and that there was no breach left in it, although up to that time I had not set the doors and the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, come and let us meet together at Hekapharim in the plain of Ono. But they intended to do me harm. So all the enemies around the outside have heard that Nehemiah has got the wall finished. It is almost done except for the doors. Just the gates that need to be put in place. Everything else is finished. So they send him a written invitation. They say, hey, listen, old buddy, old pal. We'd like for you to meet us over here in this area, and maybe we can share a plate of quail and of manna. We can drink some Mountain Dew. We'll throw some horseshoes. And we just want to get together, and we want to talk for a little while. And Nehemiah says to himself, but I knew that they intended harm for me. And so when I read that, I think, well, how exactly did he know that? Because it never says that they intended harm. What if they wanted to get together to form a peace treaty? What if they changed their mind? What if they wanted to donate gates? Or what if they wanted to donate doors? What if they wanted to come and help? How exactly did he know that what they meant for him was harm? And so many times we find ourselves in that same situation. And we say, I have an invitation to dinner. I have an opportunity for a new job in my life. I have this thing going on where I need to determine if this is good or if this is bad. And Lord, I don't know if they mean harm for me or if they mean good for me. And so how do I know? So for Nehemiah, there was two things that I see. Number one, he had past experience. So from this point forward, Tobiah and all the enemies, have they ever meant anything good for him whatsoever? Not at all. They've only meant oppression, harm. And so you can say, well, maybe they changed. Maybe. But a good basis for a future decision is a past experience. And so if you have nothing but a harmful intention coming from this person, there's a pretty good likelihood that they still have a harmful intention coming for you now. So you can say, I think maybe that's not the best idea. And then the other thing he has, which is the trump of all trumps, is he talks to God. Every decision Nehemiah has made, he's talked to the Lord. Preacher, are you saying that when I make decisions about my life, I should talk to God first? Yes. What if it's a really big decision? Yes. What if it's a really small decision? Yes. So often we want our decisions to be clean cut. We want it to be right or we want it to be wrong. But let me share this truth with you today if you do not know this. Most decisions that we are faced with that give us trouble in life are not right or wrong. It's a decision that we have to make between what is good and what is better, or what is bad and what is worse. Most people know what is right and what is wrong. We can discern that. But what about the decisions where there is no right or wrong? But it's which one is good and better, which one is bad, and which one is worse. And so he sees, this is the past that I have with these people. They have meant nothing but harm for me now, so I'm pretty sure they still intend harm. And I'm going to ask the Lord if I should go or not go. And I don't think that I'm supposed to. So here's his response, verse 3. And I sent messages to them saying, I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? Listen, guys, I'm working on this wall. Been here for a couple of weeks now. I got a lot going on. If I leave, it might take hours. It might take days. I don't have time to do that, which is a great reflection for us to say when we are on task and we're serving the Lord, we need to not be distracted. and say, listen, there are other things that I could go and do, but it is more important for me to stay here. And when he says that I cannot come down to you, he's not being arrogant, saying, listen, I'm way up here and I'm high up. You guys are way beneath or below me. Instead, he's literally saying, I'm on the hill of Jerusalem and you were down in the plains. So why would I come down to you physically when I have so many things to be doing here? Verse 4. And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them in the same manner. In the same way, Sanballat, for the 5th time, sent his servant to me with an open letter in his hand. So 4 times they send this closed letter. So what it might look like, it would be a letter written on leather or on a piece of papyrus. They would roll it up. They would wrap it and tie it with a string. And then they would seal it with a piece of wax or a piece of clay and maybe put a sign on there, much like you would see in a movie where a king sends a letter and they put wax and they put like their signet or their marker on it so they know it comes from the king. So the difference between a closed letter and an open letter, now listen, this is very important, is a closed letter is closed, but an open letter is open. So a closed letter you cannot see or read, but an open letter you can see and you can read. So this is what we call aggressive intimidation. This is what he's trying to do, the enemies. Okay, I'm sending these closed letters to Nehemiah himself. He's not coming. He's told me 4 times now that he will not respond. He don't have time to come down here and talk to us, even though we mean harm for him and he's smarter. We're going to show him just how smart we are. I'm going to send this open letter so that anybody and everybody can read it. Well, why would that be a big deal? Because I'm going to put things in there that he would never want anybody to read ever. This is what it said, verse 7. And it was written, it is reported among the nations, and Geshem also says it, that you and the Jews intend to rebel. That's why you're building the wall. And according to these reports, you wish to become their king. And you have also set up prophets to proclaim concerning you in Jerusalem, there is a king in Judah. And now the king will hear of these reports. So now come and let us take counsel together. So this is what it looks like. In these closed letters, it goes from Tobiah straight to Nehemiah. In an open letter, every hand that it passes through has open access and they can read what it says. And so Tobiah says, I'll tell you what, if you're not going to come down here, I'm going to write an open letter and I'm going to put it out for everybody to see. All the hands that pass it, they'll tell everybody about it. And in there, I'm going to say that the only reason Jerusalem is building these walls is because they want to rebel against the kingdom. That's a bad idea. And I'm going to tell them that you're putting prophets in place to prophesy about you, Nehemiah, wanting to become their king. The only reason you're doing any of this is because you want to be the head honcho and you want to be the king. So how do you think the king is going to feel about that? And so it's the picture of the kids in the playground. And one of them says, listen, give me your cupcake. And the other one says, negatory. That would be mine. Give me your cupcake. Nope, no cupcake. Give me your cupcake. I'm not giving you my cupcake. Give me your cupcake. No way. 4 times, just like this. Number 5, if you don't give me your cupcake, I'm going to go around to every bully in our school, and I'm going to tell them that you've been going around saying they smell bad. But I didn't say that. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to go around to all the bullies and tell them that you said they smell bad. And then what do you think is going to happen? Well, they're probably going to come beat me up. Yep. Want to know how to avoid that? Sure. Give me the cupcake. And so Nehemiah says, no, I'm not coming, I'm not coming, I'm not coming, I'm not coming. If you don't come, here's this letter. I'm going to send it out. And everybody's going to know about all these things that you've been doing to promote yourself as king, to take over this land, and to rebel against the king. And then you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. So either come down or the open letter is going to be sent. Here's his response, verse 8. So then I sent to him, saying, no such things as you say have been done, for you are inventing them out of your mind. For they all wanted to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands. He calls us bluff and says, listen, what you say is not true. I haven't done any of those things. You're trying to frighten us, demoralize us, and distract us. But it's not going to work because God's going to give us strength in our hands. And see, that's what bullies do. When we think about bullies, we think about in a schoolyard. But a bully pushes you and intimidates you and tries to do anything they can to force their own will or their desire or their wishes upon you, whether you like it or not. And even though bullies, we think, would be something you see in the school, adults face bullies every day. Emotional, spiritual, mental, and especially spiritual bullies, because the enemy is a bully. So what do I do when the opposition tries to give me a promise of peace? What do I do when I'm not sure if I should say yes or no, or what is good or what is better, what is bad, or what is worse? You stand firm in the truth that you know. You stay on mission, and you pray for the Lord to give you strength. And when the enemy promises you peace, know that he only means evil and harm. Number 2, we see persistence and persecution. Verse 10. Now when I went into the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, son of Mehetabel, when he was confined to his home, he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple. Let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. They are coming to kill you by night. So the expositors say that Shemaiah was most likely a priest. So Nehemiah goes to this priest. We don't know how close they were, if they were best friends, if they just barely knew each other, if they were almost strangers. But we know that Nehemiah goes to him, maybe in confidence, maybe for advice or wisdom, maybe just for a friend, maybe he went to share a meal, maybe he went to play darts. I don't know why he went, but there he is with the priest. The priest says, listen, I hear that you're in a bad way. And maybe Nehemiah begins to share about all these threats that are coming in this open letter. He goes, I tell you what, let's go into the temple together. We can shut the doors. They're coming for you tonight. I heard it. You can stay safe in the temple. And from all things on the outside, it makes you say, man, that sounds like a great friend. This guy's looking out for him. What a great invitation by a man of God to bring you into the temple, to hide you there, and stay with you until the danger has passed. But this is the wool trying to be pulled over his eyes again, because in this day and time, one person is allowed to go in the temple. That's the priest. Guess who else can go in the temple? Nobody. And so if he goes in the temple, he's going to be struck sick or he's going to die. And so in his mind, he realizes in this very moment, this man is not my friend. So let me give you this great clarity today. Maybe the Lord brought you into this place right now so that you can hear this one statement. If you have somebody in your life who is claiming to be your friend and help you, and their advice is to do something that goes against God's will, God's way, or God's word, they are not your friend. Period. If someone says, this is what I think you should do, and it goes against God's word, they are not your friend. And so Nehemiah knows in this moment, he is calling me to do something that God would never allow. This man is not my friend. So he responds. Verse 11. But I said, should such a man as I run away? And what man such as I could go into the temple and live? I will not go in. And I understood and I saw that God had not sent him, but he had pronounced a prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this purpose he was hired, that I should be afraid and I should act in this way and that I should sin, and so they could give me a bad name in order to taunt me. Remember Tobiah and Sanballat, oh my God, according to these things that they did, and also the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets who wanted to make me afraid. Listen, friend, I came here to spend some time with you, and you invite me to go into the temple. You know I can't go in there. I would die. King Uzziah tried to go to the temple. He was struck with leprosy immediately. Others died before they even took a step because God knew the intent of their heart. I cannot go in there, and yet you invite me to do that to break God's command. That's not a friend. And you encourage me to run and to hide. If I was going to run and hide, I'd done that a long time ago. I've been facing opposition since the beginning. We're almost done now. I'm not going anywhere because what would that say about my faith and my trust in God? And he says, at that moment I knew that he was hired to lure me into sin, to frighten me, to encourage me to run and hide, and to discredit my name. And so in my flesh I go, well, I wonder what Nehemiah did next. I wonder if he grabbed that dude by his robe and drug him out of the temple and then threw him over the wall and said, you get out of here and don't come back. I wonder if he found all the people that were involved in this, Tobiah and Geshem, and said, listen, you get out of this city or I'm going to have you thrown into the sea. Because that's what the flesh wants. The flesh wants to retaliate. And yet instead what Nehemiah did was he prayed. He said, God, would you remember on this day what these men did? And the way that they tried to cause me to sin, the way that they tried to mess up your plan. Lord, would you remember them? So for us, we have to remember. If you're wondering if God is using someone in your life to speak truth to you, and yet the truth that they are speaking goes against God's word, they are not sent by the Lord. If God is calling you to rise up and to rebuild, he does not ask you to run and to hide when the storms show themselves. He's going to ask you to stand firm and to trust him. And when the enemy attacks, because he will, when people try to lead you astray, when they talk bad about you, when they spread lies and rumors, even when you are bullied, do not respond with lies or with hatred or with bullying. You simply turn to the Lord because he promises us that one day he's going to make all things right. So we don't have to. Number 3, we have to understand the priority of pace. My wife and I love to do home projects. There is no better relationship building activity than a home project between a husband and a wife who often do things very differently. So we are hanging some shelves this last week, and we have this plan. We got them level, we got our anchors in. I'm going to hold this thing level, and she is going to drill the screws into this side, and then she's going to hold it up, and I'm going to put them in over on this side. And so we use a drill all the time, right? It's a very handy tool. It can drill in screws. It can drill in bolts. It can be a hammer. It can have a little light. It can do lots of things, right? So drills are good. And so I'm holding this shelf up, and my arms and my shoulders are on fire. And what I want most of all is for her to drive those screws in there as quickly as possible. And when my wife uses a drill, this would be her preferred speed of drilling. Okay, this is it. That's it. This is how she drills things. And so this is what she's doing, and my arms are still on fire. I'm going, hey, what you doing over there? I'm drilling these in. Why don't you drill a little bit faster? Slower's better. It makes the screws hold better. What you say is not true. So she gets done. She hands me the drill. So her preferred speed. This is my preferred speed. I said, woman, they put that trigger there for a reason. If they didn't want you to pull that trigger, they would not have put it on there. You need to give that sucker full speed. So for the next 10 or 15 minutes, we went back and forth about the correct speed to drill things in. And she tried to convince me you should go nice and slow. I tried to convince her you need to go hard and fast, right? Drill that thing in there. We got stuff to do. We got to move on. And so the truth is that sometimes it is good to drill really slow. Sometimes it's a little better to drill really fast, almost all the time, I think. Sometimes it's good to do it somewhere in between, but you have to find the right pace. And so, Lord willing, I will never be a marathon runner. But what I have heard from those people that choose to do that is it's all about the pace. You can't run too fast. You can't run too slow. You got to find that rhythm, right? Left, right, breathe. Left, right, breathe. And so you find this pace that's just right. And so the Apostle Paul tells us that in this life we're running this race, and it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. But you can't go too slow, but you can't go too fast either. You have to find the right pace, and it's the same truth when we're trying to rise up and rebuild. You got to find this pace to where you're making the progress that God's called you to make, and you're putting bricks on the wall, and you're putting mortar down, and you're seeing progress. You're not going too fast where it's going to fall down. You're not going too slow to where you're never going to get there. But even when persecution and opposition comes your way, you still keep pushing forward persistently. And so we have to find the right pace. Verse 15. So the wall was finished on the 25th day in the month of Elul in 52 days. And when all the enemies heard of it, all the nations around us, they were afraid. They fell greatly in their own esteem, for they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. Moreover, in those days, the nobles of Judah, they sent many letters to Tobiah, and Tobiah's letters came to them. For many in Judah were bound by oath to him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Arah, and the son of Jehohanan, who took the daughter of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, as his wife. Also, they spoke of his good deeds in my presence, and reported my words to him, and Tobiah sent letters to make me afraid. So they finished this wall that has been in devastation and destruction for 150 years in 52 days. And after 52 days, it says all the enemies and those surrounding them, they were scared because they knew that no man could ever put this wall back together. So surely God was on their side. So on October 27th, 445 BC, almost 2,500 years ago, this wall was finished. And the old Tobiah, the one who had been casting threats, persecuting, sending letters, it says that he was so afraid that he began to reach out to all of his contacts because he was married into power. He had a lot of people that owed him favors. And he says, you need to make sure that Nehemiah, even though now he has this big bad wall, that he never messes with me. And so even though the wall was finished, the threats and the bullying continued. Chapter 7, verse 1. Now when the wall had been built, and I set up its doors, and the gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites had been appointed, I gave my brother Hanani and Hananiah, the governor of the castle, charge over Jerusalem. For he was a more faithful and God-fearing man than many. And I said to them, let not the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. While they are still standing guard, let them shut and bar the doors. Appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, some with their guard posts, some in front of their own homes. The city was wide and it was large, but the people within it were few and no houses had been. So the wall was finished. They put the gates and the doors in place. And Hanani, if you remember from our very first chapter, he was the one who came to Nehemiah. And he says, hey, how are things in Jerusalem? He goes, oh, they're terrible. So he's the one that brings word to Nehemiah, and now he's the one that Nehemiah is putting in charge because he was a God-fearing and a noble man. They put the gates in place. The walls have been built. And it says that he gives them this order to not shut the gates not open the gates until the sun was hot on them. What that means is in the mornings, they would open the city gates as soon as the sun would come up. But he says, listen, just because the walls have been built, that doesn't mean that the threat is gone. So don't open those gates first at dusk. Don't open them first at dawn. You open those gates up after they are burning up hot because the sun is in the sky and we can see all around this place and know that we are not in danger. And then he takes the gatekeepers who usually only guard the temple gates and he sets them up front and all around each gate with the singers and with the Levites because he knows that all these things they've been going through, they're going to keep going through. There's going to be more attacks. There's going to be more enemies. There's going to be more persecution. And even though the wall is built, he says, we got a lot of folks here, and there's not one house. We just have a wall. So there's much work that still has to be done. And so often that's the picture of our life, that we have to have this pace and we have to have this plan, because just because we complete one task, that doesn't mean that we're done. We don't say, oh, check, I'm finished, Lord. It means that we finished this, and now we move to the next task. And we finish one phase, and then we move into the next phase. We complete one event, we move into the next event. Maybe we plant one seed, and then we move on to the next row. But we have to have the right pace. So here's the lessons that we learn from Nehemiah. We got to keep rising up and rebuilding. We have to keep protecting the city and each other. We got to keep working with a hammer in one hand and a sword in the other. We have to keep remembering that God is awesome and great, and we are rebuilding for our families. And when the enemy gives you a promise of peace, remember that he is a liar. Remember the past and seek the Lord's discernment. Recognize that persistence and persecution will always be a part of your life on this side of eternity. There'll always be enemies. There'll always be bullies. There'll always be naysayers. But we continue to rise up and rebuild. We continue to love and protect. We continue to stand firm in the face of adversity. And when we see something, we do something. And when we hear something, we say something. And we refuse to ignore the obvious. And we will never be able to accomplish all that God has in store for us unless we prioritize our pace, which means we don't move too fast. We don't move too slow. We simply follow God's lead. We obey His commands. We listen to His Spirit. And then no matter what challenge stands before us, we will successfully rise up and rebuild. Lord, today, this is what we pray.